Hi everyone, welcome back to this edition of Live Genuinely. So excited to be here tonight with our next guest. Her name is Liz Lena, and she happens to be one of the most amazing parents that I have ever met. I would actually probably consider her one of the reasons why I grew up successfully, if you can call it that. She's one of my older cousins, and I looked up to her and admire her so much. And I'm so excited for her to be able to be on this podcast today and share some of her story with us. So welcome, Liz.
Well, thank you for that introduction. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm Liz Lena. And I am a little older than Jennifer.
Just a tad. So tell me, and I would love for you to be able to introduce yourself to our guests. So what are some of your interests? What's it like to be you?
I'll start with, I have two boys, an 18-year-old special needs and a 16-year-old typical, but he's a rock star kind of kid. And so I think part of the reason you brought me here was because I had quite an interesting childhood, which led into quite the interesting parenting thing that we do.
Yeah.
And you're right, you were a big reason why I learned how to be the kind of cool parent that I am, right?
Yeah.
Being the older cousin, I raised you a little bit, right? I watched you. And both of us had older generation parents. And with my parents being much older, we had a big generation gap. And I was raised with American kids that had different levels of parenting.
Right.
So they were allowed to go out at night. I had to stay home. And my sister and I had roles at the house that a lot of American kids didn't, right?
Certain freedoms and expectations of being a child of immigrants is really different. So I know for me, your dad and my dad are cousins. So for me, my dad, growing up in a very military-based household, my grandfather, our grandfather was basically very militant and expected things to be done in a very particular way. And that transpired into his parenting, him being the eldest boy of 13.
Right.
And so, like, we weren't allowed to be on the phone for longer than 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and it had to be homework related or like things like that. So I assume it was probably
very similar to us. And as far as a child's responsibility was, it was whatever our parents said to be. We never questioned anything. We never said no. We just did what we did. My older brother, who also had special needs, with that, my sister and I developed roles also. We never questioned it. We had to do things for him because he wasn't able to do it himself. And that's just how the Jackson house was, And when cousins came over, our responsibility was to take care of them.
Yeah.
But I found it fun. I found it nurturing, and I also found it a way to kind of grow myself. I didn't know it at the time, but I figured I was developing myself. And I didn't realize how much it would help me later on down the line, right?
Yeah. Well, I remember, like, growing up, just being me not having an older sister, how excited I was whenever my mom would tell me, like, oh, Liz is going to pick you up from school, or Liz is going to take you to school, or, whatever it was. And I just felt so cool. You know what I mean? Like having that older close cousin that
wasn't an adult.
That wasn't an adult, but like was still like, you were a point for me that I knew that I could turn to and confide in, because I knew that I couldn't talk to my parents about very certain things. Like if I tried to tell them that, like, oh, I failed the test and I'm really upset, like they would just be like, well, just don't do that.
Right.
You know what I mean? So there wasn't necessarily an emotional bridge, and that was something that you definitely provided for me. And like I still remember, and I don't even know if you remember, there was a time where you called the house and you asked my mom if I could braid your hair for prom because you wanted to have the crimped look.
Yes.
Do you remember that? And my mom was like, yeah, she can do that. And I was like, Liz wants me to braid her? Like I was so excited. And like, and so you were like, yeah, I'll pick you up. We're going to grab some McDonald's and we're going to go to I think it was Joyce's house.
Yeah, probably.
And we were, and I was braiding your hair. And while I was braiding your hair, one of your friends also, they were like, oh, can you braid my hair too? And I felt like I was like, oh, I felt like I had made it. You know what I mean? Like it felt so good to have, to know that somebody else was like looking out for me. You know what I mean?
I think that's kind of how you guys felt about my sister as well, right?
Yeah.
Just someone else besides an adult who was, and maybe she didn't listen all the time, right? Or didn't appreciate us all the time. But because our parents they raised us without emotion. We were not raised on hugs and kisses.
No, definitely not.
We were not raised on hugs and kisses. We were raised on, if you completed your task, you're a good kid.
Yeah,
if you didn't, then you're a bad kid, right?
Exactly.
So to have that tell us we were okay kind of helped us a lot better to live here in America, right?
Of course.
Right.
So what was the age difference between you and Maria?
4.
4 years, okay. So between you and I is what, 6?
Well, I'm 50. I'm 50 right now, so.
Okay. Yeah, so 6 years.
6 years.
Yeah, so
wow.
But like, I remember when, like, especially like with Maria being so much older than us, like she was like this career woman, like she was a travel agent already, and like she had herself like set up, and wanting to get her attention was so much fun, just growing up. But seeing also the dynamic of like the way you guys interacted with your parents, and then how we were interacting with our parents, but yet how we got to interact with you guys, very, very different, because you guys almost provided that buffer for us, us being the younger cousins, like you provided that sense of like, you can mess up and we'll still love you, and or you can experiment or be you and we'll still love you. Like there's like when you made signs for me at my graduation, like my parents would never do that.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it made
that kind of emotional support.
Yeah.
Right. And when boys came into the picture, that's when I had to draw the line, the thin line, you know, what could you confide in me without telling anyone else, or what was the safety issue there. So I think that is big for me too, as I am now a parent, you know, seeing that my kids need that buffer as well, you know, and I want them to have a go-to, because if they don't confide in me, it's okay, but they do need someone. Right.
And I think that one of the big things that I noticed about, and I don't say any of this to slight our parents in the least. Absolutely. I think that their generation was more so focused almost on survival.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, because they sacrificed so much to be able to just move here. And so their whole thing was like, I'm going to provide you with as many opportunities as I can. You need to do your job is to make the most of it.
Right.
And so for us, being able to demonstrate love was performance, right? But by us showing how much we appreciate their sacrifices, we would get A's.
Correct.
By us, you know, keeping a clean house, that shows that we're grateful to have a home. By us, you know, just doing our chores, whatever it was. That's how we were like, this is us proving that we're grateful. Right. But it was also our parents' job to provide and give good food and be able to afford nice clothes or whatever it is, so that we could have those opportunities given to us. Right. And so while that survival was important and obviously necessary, it was nice to be able to also have the outlet of like, okay, but like, let's find out how we thrive. Like, let's not just survive, let's thrive. Let's find what makes you happy. Let's, you know, find ways to lift ourselves up.
Right, because they couldn't understand what we wanted to do leisurely, right? Going out, going to parties, going to the school dance. they had no capacity in their head to understand why that was even important.
Yeah.
You know, so even dealing with that, right? And feeling okay with that, accepting it without, you know, feeling not belonging, right? With your friends. I think that builds character.
Yeah.
You know, I look back and there's no regrets.
Yeah.
There's not a party that I regret them from keeping me from, right?
Right.
Because in the long run, it has built us in our own way. And I am the kind of mom I am because of them, right?
Right. So from would you say that like the parenting that you experienced as a child, what carried over into what you are or how you parent now?
Well, I think you nailed it. They felt, because they came over and they worked so hard, they sacrificed to come over to, you know, America, right? I think just understanding that, you have to understand what they did.
Yeah.
It may show in a different way, but I want my kids to know that I would do the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, I want them to know I would work hard for them, for their happiness, you know, and for their future. Because that's what all my parents ever worried about was our future, right? And obviously, we show it differently now. I do hugs and kisses, you know, and I cheer them on, you know, and I don't put
I
any...
act a fool.
Yeah,
like
right?
I will be my kids.
Yeah.
I will be that parent who is standing up when no one else is and cheering for my kid in the audience when they're
yes,
performing.
you will.
Because that's what I wanted.
Right.
Like I wanted that for me, and that was something that
Exactly.
you gave to me.
Oh. Yeah, well, you know, and also my parents were never my friends' friends. So, but they were welcomed into my house. So I'm translating that over into I'm my son's friends, you know. But in all of it, my parents were respected, and so that has trickled over to me too.
Yeah.
My son's friends can be my friends as long as there's respect, right?
Right.
So I think it was respect and hard work that I really want my kids to see in me.
I think one other thing that, if I may, that has transpired from your parents into your current parenting methods or practice is your door is always open.
Right.
Like to anyone, and your mom has always been like that. Mom is like who, you know, your typical Filipino mom who's like, have you eaten yet? Make sure you feed them. Make sure you give them something to drink, and like that welcoming. How do I? Like willing to give the shirt off her back, kind of like my home is yours. Anything that I can, I will give to you.
It's yours,
and you do the same for
You're so right.
the way that whenever your kids' friends come over, even me, if I show up at your house, you're just like, let me
it
feed
is an
you.
open door,
Yeah.
and that is true because my parents were the open door for relatives.
Yeah.
We had a 4-bedroom, but my sister and I still shared rooms, right? Because we needed relatives to stay in. Because we don't have a lot of relatives in Southern California, my husband and I, we still have friends.
Yeah.
And they're welcome to stay, they're welcome to come in. And you're right, thank you for noticing that. Yeah, just love.
Yeah, and I love that Uncle Felix, your dad, would always call everybody my friend.
Right.
That was like my favorite.
Right. Everyone
anytime
knows.
he would talk to you, he was like, hello, my friend.
Oh, that's right.
You need to make your dad a t-shirt.
Yes, I'm your friend.
Yeah, I'm your friend. Don't worry, I'm your
Oh
friend.
my goodness, yes, that's right.
Yeah.
You have a lot of memories still too, right?
yeah.
And that's what we want in our kids. We just want to make memories, if anything, memories and lessons.
Yeah.
So we have a lot to give.
Yeah, it's been such a fun ride being able to see how now them as parents, now seeing them as needing us to support them, and now you have your parents living with you right now.
It's true, right? You hear that you become the parents. We become the parents of
To
our
our
parents.
parents.
Yes. And yes, they live with us now. And it really is a trip. It really is like, okay, did you eat, Mom? You know, I'm following up. I'm making sure she's healthy. I'm making sure, you know, when they go out and drive on the road, I'm like, call me before you get home. Like, yeah, because it's, and now I appreciate them even more. You know, I wish So maybe that's a lesson we should teach our kids. You know, it's caring, and you should respect it because they go crazy.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. What would you say was the most important lesson that you learned from your parents?
I think through it all, I think it's just sharing of love. You know, as much as I fought with my parents, and I did because I wasn't the best kid. You know, my sister followed all the rules and I didn't. I think I knew that they loved me. And that's why I snuck out to LA. I did a lot of things, broke the rules, but I knew that they would love me through it. You know, so I think that is your kids, no matter what they do, no matter what they don't do, you've got to let them know you love them, no matter what they are.
There was something that I read, and it was really profound, that your kids aren't looking for the perfect parent; they're looking for their parent.
Oh.
And it's like, you know, like seeing, especially I didn't have the best relationship with, like, my mom and I definitely butted heads. Because I was constantly trying to push limits with them as well, and didn't necessarily in such a, we came from a very big family, right? Like big family being the extended family, not just like the nucleus of your 5 and then the nucleus of our 4. It was all of those homes were always together. But pushing my mom's boundaries, even though I did that, it would devastate me if she wasn't in the audience, or if, you know what I mean? Like, no matter how upset or angry, like I can't believe she wouldn't let me go out or whatever it was, that was still my mom, you know? And so I think that that's important for our kids
to know,
for us to know about our kids, is that no matter if we think we're doing a good or a bad job, or if we think we're having a bad parenting day, they still want us. You know? In the end, it's still us.
True.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so sweet. That's true. And how do you get that message across?
Yeah. How do you get that message across? How do you ensure that your kids know that they're loved?
I know.
Because there's got to be ways to say I love you without even saying it, right?
Well, my parents never said it, but I knew, right? So, but my kids, very different. We are raised on hugs and kisses. Like I said, I have Zach, who's autistic, and Jake, who's completely opposite of the spectrum. And so the dealings, I think we have to let them know that they're okay how they are. And this is my biggest lesson, one size does not fit all. So you can't compare, you know, your kid is perfect. And that's, somehow you've just got to figure out how to relay that, because they are.
Yeah, they really, really are. There was another thing that I read that said that our children are not ours. We're borrowing them and helping God raise them.
Oh, wow.
And that actually changed how I raised my kids. Because a lot of times you'll see people who, and I'm not saying that every parent, any kind of parenting is wrong, because no matter what, we're showing up for our kids the best we possibly can.
We know how to.
The best you possibly can. And I think that that's true for parents. When they're trying, they're figuring it out. There is, like you said, there is no one size fits all.
There is no.
So I think it gave me more grace as a parent of knowing, like, okay, well, I'm just doing the best that I can to raise God's kids. Like, I want to be able to make sure that they're good people in the end.
That's all.
That they're, you know, upstanding citizens, and that they'll take care of themselves. They'll take care of other people. They'll be kind.
Absolutely.
They'll be kind, and they'll be accepting, and they'll be generous.
Right.
And they'll be joyful. That's like genuinely all I want for my kids. And maybe, you know, maybe a celebrity or two.
Yeah, right.
Just don't forget about me when you get older.
I agree.
You know, like, I hope that, you know, they are able to just enjoy themselves.
I think that's important. We've raised, Jake has been kind of genius level. Like at 2 years old, 3 years old.
Yeah.
Well, actually, for the first 2.5 years of his life, we put him through therapy, speech therapy, occupational. I was able to quit my job because I didn't want 2 special needs kids. It was a struggle. But after 3.5, the therapies worked. And all of a sudden, he was genius level.
Yeah.
His teachers were telling us he was above all the way up until like second grade above. And we told Jake, we're glad you're getting the grades, but we want you to be a good brother. And that was going to be our measure. A good brother means you're understanding towards others. There's no judgment, and you do as you'd want to be done to you. And so I agree with you. We want good souls. We're raising good souls. And if they score high in there, that's bonus. Your grades are bonus, but in the end, it's what their heart makes them.
Yeah. And what is the age difference between Jake and Zach?
It's about 2, depending on the month,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
It's about 18 months to 20. Yeah.
Yeah, 18 months apart. So, and how does Jake feel, or what is his relationship with Zach like?
Here's the thing. It's like I was raised to just accept my role as whatever it is, and Jake accepted his role as the older brother, even though he was the younger brother. He just accepted the responsibility, the protection, his guardian, his voice.
Yeah.
And how it happened, probably because we just went along and that's how it was. There was no judgment. If he didn't want to, it's a really tricky trick we did. There was no pressure. It was more of leading by example, and he got praised for it. And we built that relationship and honestly, by the luck of God also, it's higher power that raised 2 good kids that match each other.
Right.
They fit perfectly in our world.
Yeah.
And again, it's our perfection.
Yeah.
No one else's. He wouldn't survive in someone else's home, but you gotta make them feel like they're perfect in your own world.
And they are.
Yeah,
they are. I definitely want to hear more about the relationship between Jake and Zach. We're going to take a really quick break. We'll be right back, and we're going to dive into a little bit more about what it's like to raise a child with special needs, and let's find out a little bit more about the relationship between the 2 brothers. So we'll be right back. Welcome back. We're here today with my cousin Liz, and we're going to be talking a little bit about parenting. So you had started the segment, and we were talking a little bit about your boys, Zach and Jake. And so, tell me a little bit more about them. What are they like?
Okay. Well, first of all, like I said, Zach, 18 years old now, special needs, and then when he was first diagnosed, he was about 12 to 15 months. We were one of the first parents out of all of our kids. So, 3 months, 6 months, he was behind the curve, and we didn't know any better. We thought he'd catch up.
Yeah.
No expectations, nothing to compare him to. And then about 15 months, the pediatrician started pointing out things that he was really behind in.
Okay.
And then we realized he needed therapy. And so, not to mention he was born with club feet. I forgot about that. He was born with club feet. At a year, he had an operation. Then at 15 months, we find out he has delays. And I'm feeling sorry for myself. I'm like, okay, wasn't the club feet enough? I'm kind of mad at God. And I'm like, okay, we'll handle this. That's fine. So we're at the pediatrician's for one of his other therapies, and it's the first time I was really feeling sorry for myself. And I was pissed at God. I was thinking, okay, first he had club feet, had to deal with an operation, and now we're gonna have to do therapy. Then as I sit there, I look at my son. There's a little girl next to me. She's super cute. She's reaching, she's waving, she's doing things my son can't do. And then his mom pulls out a feeding tube. The little girl's mom pulls out a feeding tube, lifts that cute girl's shirt and feeds her with a tube. And I said, I hear you, God. God gave me the sign and said, be thankful for what you have.
Yeah.
Just take what you have and be thankful and don't look back.
Yeah.
And guess what? I never did. We raised Zach on pride, not pity. And that was the thing. And then we have our other kid. We thought Zach was it, right? We were going to only have to deal with his special needs. We'd feel typical joy with Jake. And then at 12 months, he wasn't talking either. So my husband and I decided that I would have to make arrangements, quit my job, focus on Zach and Jake and do the best we could. So with therapies, I have both kids going to therapies, doing a diet, doing this, breaking all the mama rules, because I was introduced to special needs, homeopathic, organic, special diets, different therapies, and the doctor kept veering me this way. Well, I said no, because once again, no kid is the same. One size does not fit all. I'm not going to give my kids shots with all these things that you say work for your kid. So we started researching, and I flew to the East Coast. Yeah, I had to get Zach to be the best he could be. In order to do that, I had to be a good mother to Jake also. So there were struggles, there were ups and downs, and there were people telling me, give up this off the path journey and go where it's easy, go where everyone tells you what to do. My mother-in-law fought me for this diet. But you know, at the end of every day that I struggled and sweated with different therapies, different diet, I would see my kids smile, you know, and my husband, he worked his butt off so that I could stay home, would come home, and we both would agree it was worth it. Every day is worth it. And that's what I tell parents, you know, just go with your gut and you count the day. You don't look at the few years later on down the line. You can't. You just have to go through every day. One day at a time. Oh my God.
And I love, one of the things that I've always really admired about you, cousin, is that I don't know if you remember, but it was, gosh, Zach was probably 6 or 7 at the time, and we met up for lunch. Do you remember this? We met up for lunch, and we ate at a restaurant that had TVs in there. And but the TVs were set up high, right? And then and there was underneath the TVs were obviously seating tables, but we were away from them.
Right.
And then Zach, but the TV caught Zach's attention, and he just stood up and he walked over and was standing in front of a table watching the TV, completely like minding his own business, super sweet.
Right.
And he was just intently watching the Tom and Jerry cartoon or whatever it was. But it happened to be that there was a couple enjoying their lunch at that table.
Right.
And I remember, like, you glanced over and you saw the situation, and yet you did nothing. And I was like, oh. And I remember looking at you going, should we get... Yeah, like, are we gonna...
Yes, right.
And you were like, no, like, he's not bothering them.
Right.
And I remember, like, thinking, wow, like... That's it made me like, oh, well, if he's not bothering them, then what's the problem? And then, like, to even more of my surprise, the couple that was sitting at the table asked you, do you want to bring his lunch over so he could sit with us?
Right. Yes.
And I was completely dumbfounded.
Right.
And then you looked at me after that, and you were like, I'm not going to apologize for my children.
Right.
This is who they are. And I was like, that is probably the most beautiful piece of parenting advice ever. Because at that time, Sienna was maybe like, 6? Because she's a year and a half younger than Dom.
Zach, correct.
She's a year and a half younger than Zach. So, so seeing that, I was like, oh, that it even changed the way I was parenting.
I love that, because that would apply to typical parents also.
Yeah.
One of the things I would tell any other special parent is that your kid needs to feel as normal as possible.
Yeah.
And though you want to teach that special needs kid a lot of lessons, use him to teach other people lessons. Let me tell and the way this world is going, there's going to be a lot. Everyone knows a special needs kid, an autistic kid. And it's up to us parents to teach others to welcome and just to view it, experience it. My kid's laugh is so contagious. It's so contagious.
Yeah.
But not everyone would be blessed to hear it if they didn't open their hearts.
Very true.
So that is our role.
Yeah.
As parents, also, my typical kid has joys to share as well. You know, so that's the role us parents should know.
Yeah.
As your kid is special, and let them know that special thing can teach someone else a lesson. You know, I remember Zach was probably about the same age, and it was a journey for me too. Zach had differences at each level, right? And I remember one time he was maybe 5 or 6, and that's when other 5 or 6-year-old kids are mean, right?
Yeah.
Or I should say honest.
Yeah.
They're honest. I remember we were standing in line at Best Buy. It was me, Jake, and Zach. And Zach had his fit. Well, I'm known to not give a shit about what other people think. I'm just known. My skin got pretty thick. And at this point, I let him. And then I see kids staring. There's like a group of 4 siblings about that age, and they're staring. And instead of being a mean special needs mom saying, "What are you staring at?" I said, "He's kind of a brat, huh?" And they were shocked too. They're like, "How'd she read my mind?" Right?
Yeah.
So they said they were shy. I go, "No, I admit it. If you did this on the ground, you would be a brat."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Do you want to help me?" And they came over and they said yes. They wanted to help me with my kid. So Zach is screaming on the floor, and he sees these little kids looking over him. I'm like, his name's Zachary. Tell him to stop.
Yeah.
And Zach listened to them. So
I love that.
I know. And so I told their parents, I'm like, let that be a lesson to them.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to approach us.
Yeah.
You know?
So have you found that people have been more? What I guess the question would be: is it more adults or is it children who struggle when they or get
uncomfortable? They
Is that
do
what the
get
word?
uncomfortable. Yes. I would say adults. Because they're so worried about saying the right thing.
Right.
Don't pretend my kid's not having a fit. Yeah. You know, don't pretend he's not in your ear yelling, right? So I would love for people to learn. I would like that lesson to be learned. It's okay to look, not with pity though, because we know the difference. If you're looking at a concern, that's fine. You can look, period.
Yeah.
Just make sure it's out of concern, not judgy, not pity.
Yeah.
And so I think kids aren't afraid to ask. Our neighborhood's pretty dope, right? We have tons of kids, tons of ages. They come from all different walks of life. Well, I have another kid there. He was 8 at the time. His cousin lives in the neighborhood, and they come over and swim with Zach. For the last 3 years, they used me for my pool.
Yeah.
But the rule is you have to swim with Zach. And so one summer, actually just a year and a half ago, he comes up to me and goes, "When is Zach going to be a full person?" And I thought it was the cutest question. I loved it.
Because it was an honest question.
And you know what he means, right?
Yeah.
An adult would say, "Oh, is he ever going to develop better?"
Yeah.
Right? But a kid wants to know, when is he ever going to be a complete person?
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? People become different people at different ages.
Yeah.
I spoke to his level, different ages. I go, but for now, you're just going to have to take him. I do, you know?
Yeah.
And he just walked away. So I took it as the cutest, most honest question.
Yeah.
And I shared with his dad, and his dad was embarrassed.
Oh.
Yeah, but I had to explain to him, don't be embarrassed because your dad, he spoke from the heart.
Yeah.
But I thought it was cute. I tell everyone that story. I think it's the funniest question.
Yeah.
Right? And how else do you ask it, right? You want to know, when is he, if he's going to. And the thing we learned with Zach, and I lay that over to Jake, is we answer every question with not yet. You know, is Zach potty trained? Not yet. Is Zach eating with a fork? Not yet. You know, it's never no. And that's something I would like all of the parents to answer questions with. Even with Jake, like, is he driving? Not yet, you know? And it should be, yes. But yeah, and I think the community, I think it is the adults that are more afraid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But possibly afraid maybe because they don't want to offend.
That's it.
Or is it...
Maybe I shouldn't say offend, right? More sensitive.
Yeah, okay. And perhaps they stumble over their words like I am right now, but because they don't know what to ask or how to ask, because some people haven't experienced it. And then there's on the opposite side, are there parents who've ever blamed you or assumed that it's your fault? You know what I mean?
You get the wrong, we've gotten the parents. I've gotten a worker at Target. Zach, I used to put him in the shopping cart. It was much easier. This is 4 years old. He was a big kid to be in the shopping cart.
Yeah.
and he decides to stand up. So another couple comes up and says, your kid needs to sit down. He's not safe that way. How dare you let him stand in the cart?
Oh.
And I go, you tell him. If you could get him to sit down, by all means. And they didn't get it. Because Zach he doesn't look handicapped or anything until he moves. You know, then you can tell he's nonverbal and he's stimming. So he was standing up, and I think they just assumed. And so I said, after I said, you try it. And I go, he's autistic. It's hard for me to get him to sit down. And they're like, and so then I was not nice anymore. But, you know, you'll experience that. And I had to be the bigger person. You know, you just have to be the bigger person and know that they're not blessed enough to understand.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, not everyone is going to be like the little kids that want to help me lift them up, you know. There are adults out there that blame me for my misbehaved kid. And there's other parents that want to reach out and say, oh my God, I understand. It's okay.
And I think it has a lot to do with exposure, right?
Absolutely.
Some people have never been exposed to it.
Right.
So they don't know any better.
Right.
And so their
don't.
first reaction is to reject what is not known, right?
Right.
So automatically they're like, oh, that's not for me. It doesn't fit into my norm.
Absolutely.
I don't understand it, so I'm going to automatically reject it.
Reject it, yeah. If not, ignore it.
Yeah.
Right.
Or like blame it on something or completely push it away. But like you said, they're missing such an amazing opportunity. One of my favorite things is that Zach FaceTime calls
He does
all the time.
He's developed a relationship with people.
He and as soon as I answer, he's like, Uncle Kevin. He's always looking for Kevin.
Yes.
And so so I like when he calls and Kevin's at work, I'm always like, call back in an hour, Zach. He's not home yet. He's not home yet. And he'll keep calling back until he gets Uncle Kevin.
Right.
But there was this one time where I got the FaceTime call. And I was like, oh, I know it's Zach. And Kev goes, let me answer it.
Oh.
And Kev answered it, and he goes, Zach! And Zach's laugh
is so contagious.
It's the most magical thing in the world. I love hearing it. It just makes your whole body just feel warm and just it's pure joy. His laugh is like pure, innocent joy.
Exactly.
It's
and to all the parents, you have to understand that you see your special needs kid struggling in our world, but in their world, they're fine.
Yeah.
You know, so they don't need us trying to get them to follow the line straight. They don't need to, you know, they will do it if they can eventually. Like our biggest thing with Zach was there were a few therapies that I didn't want because I felt like they were dog training. Like, you do this, you're rewarded. You do this, you're rewarded. But I wanted my Zach to do it because I said high five.
Yeah.
You know, I want to be the reward.
Yeah.
So I think it's shown that people are his reward.
Yeah.
So I think that people should look into building a relationship first, knowing what their kid is about. By knowing my Zach, I was able to be his advocate.
Yeah.
Wherever we go, with doctors, teachers, wherever he needs me to be his voice.
Yeah.
Like I'm confident that I'm able to answer for him unless he is now answering for himself to some degree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how is it with his relationship with Jake? Like, how are the two of them together?
You know, Jake was his older brother to begin with, even though his age
chronologically,
was younger. Chronologically, he was younger. But he just... I'm not sure what it was at first, whether it was because there was no label. You were his brother. You know, when he was younger, he was his brother. Oh, my brother can't talk, so I'm going to ask for this for him.
Yeah.
And siblings,
I remember that with trick-or-treating, too.
Yes, right?
It was the best. It was the best. So sweet.
And then he snagged his candy, right? Yeah, so I think we just got lucky with that. Siblings, they have a responsibility to each other, and the bigger family that we family by neighbors, the bigger village we developed. Jake knew that he was going to be his brother's sidekick. And I don't know if it's out of reward or out of just self-awareness, but he just gives in to Zach. completely just gives up a lot for his brother. And, we have to take a look at whether he's sacrificing too much. We don't want any regrets in his adulthood. How did my parents do it? Because my sister or I have no regrets, right? We couldn't go to Disneyland because of my brother. We couldn't go out because of my brother, but there's no regrets we had. So I think if you just do it organically, so that's still a kind of a question we're dealing with. We don't know what it's going to look like. He's 16, right? Yeah. But as of now, he is naturally his brother.
Yeah. Do you ever feel like he, I don't want to say like suffers in silence, or like, do you feel like he sometimes maybe just doesn't say anything because he doesn't want you to worry?
I know.
Or
Jake does have a lot of, he not has a lot of responsibility, but he takes a lot of owns up to it.
Yeah.
So you know what, he might, I don't know. That's something we have to focus on also, because he's been so gracious, right?
Yeah.
But when it comes into, when he starts driving and when he starts trying to do more social things, because right now he's our babysitter.
Yeah.
So when it starts getting in the way of his social life, we'll see what he decides.
Yeah. And does he advocate for himself a lot? Like if it becomes too much, does he say, "Hey, you know what, Mom, I want to do this," and maybe it's contrary to what you need him to do?
Right.
Or, does he use his voice?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay. No, I haven't seen it yet. So we'll see what happens when it does happen, because we'll see. Luckily, we socialize as a village, so a lot of our experiences and a lot of our things we do is a group.
Yeah.
So Jake is a part of that, and so is Zach. So like I said, once Jake starts to have his own social life, starts dating or whatever, we'll see at that point how to separate the two, right?
Yeah.
We have to keep that in mind.
And what about celebrating, I guess, milestones, things like that? So it obviously they're each going to have their own milestones. Right. And how do we make sure that each one is celebrated individually? Or you know what I mean? Like how do you do anything special to recognize them individually? Or
we just celebrate. Celebrating, it comes naturally for us. So I think we do a really good job about celebrating our kids separately.
Yeah.
Zach, our biggest goal was to let him feel typical. We have great neighbors, and for Zach's special ed prom, I made arrangements for one of the daughters to go to prom with him. So Zach did a promposal, walked down the street, had a promposal, took this beautiful young lady to his special needs prom, and took prom pictures, and whether Zach understands how much of a milestone that is, like we had to do it for me.
Yeah.
Me and him.
Yeah.
So, but to be able to have that in our neighborhood is amazing.
Yeah. And Jake he also gets to experience those things.
Jake, yes. The minute he has anything going on, it's big.
Yeah.
We go big.
Yeah.
So he doesn't even want to know what we're going to do for his prom.
Yeah.
Well, he had some winter formals that I was involved with. So good thing Jake has a voice, because he limits me on how big I'm allowed to go.
Right.
Yeah. But, up until now, I tell people Jake is my best friend.
Yeah.
Jake is my go-to when it comes to Zach. I go to him if I feel like I ask him what Zach is freaking out about. What do you think Zach would like? And Jake is right there. He's like, oh, he just needs some time. He tells me Zach needs some time. Stop yelling at him. Yeah, so, okay. So, I want to continue that. I hope Jake would answer that the same way. We celebrate him big too.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things that you did for Zach was his graduation.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, again, it's not only is our neighborhood amazing, but we are there for each other, right?
Right.
And like I said, I want Zach to feel as typical as possible. Well, with COVID, no one's life has been possible.
Typical.
Typical. Yeah. What did I say? Yeah.
Possible.
Well, that too, right? Is typical.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Zach, his special ed class was going to graduate and walk with the typical in high school. I'm sorry, high school graduation. His special ed class would be walking with a typical. Now, because of COVID, they were only allowed 2 guests. There's 3 in my family. So I asked what the walk would look like, and the special needs kids would have to wait until the typical kids walked. So we all know what graduation looks like. It's a pain in the butt. You sit for hours for your one kid.
Yeah.
There's no way Zach would do that. I'm not going to force my kid to sit and watch hundreds of kids he doesn't know.
Yeah.
And we're not guaranteed he'll walk. Yeah. Zach would not walk up on the podium. He might not last long.
Yeah.
So I created his own graduation on our street. I live on the corner. So I ordered his, the gown. I ordered his cap and gown. All the neighbors lined up on our street. Jake played Pomp and Circumstance on guitar, and my kid walked. He walked down our street with his gown, and he high-fived everyone. It was the most amazing thing.
Oh,
and then
so great.
He got up, and we gave him his diploma.
I love that. I love that. We are going to take one more quick break.
Okay.
And then when we come back, with all of these experiences, we're going to talk a little bit about what you've learned as a parent from your kids, and just what advice you'd like to give to parents, whether they be typical children or if they have special needs. So we will be right back. Awesome. Welcome back. We were just talking about Zach and Jake and their experiences growing up. So I wanted to follow that with telling me a little bit about what you've learned now as a parent. What have you learned from them?
Right. You know what? I think every parent should be aware that they're going to learn from their children.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, but I think I learned that I really am a strong person. You know, as when I was younger, I was fighting my parents. I was fighting, you know, a girl in line at the clothing store, you know, but now I realize, you remember, right? That. So now I'm like, I'm proud to be that fighter.
Yeah.
Your kids will teach you a lot, and but only if you listen. So apparently I'm a good listener too. I'm usually the one talking, but I've learned to kind of stop. And when you're talking to your children, talk to them, not at them. So I'm finding that I am kind of a cool mom too.
Yeah.
You know, my son's friends, they called me yesterday to be their Valentine. And I think that's so important, because if they think I'm cool, that means my kid thinks I'm cool, right?
Right.
So I think one of the things I learned is if you just stay true, you know, don't be afraid to be who you are, and you'll be kind of a cool parent too.
I think also parents, sometimes we don't give ourselves enough grace or enough credit for the work that we have to do. Yeah,
exactly.
Because it's not a job that stops. It's not a job that you can say, you know what, I need a sick day.
No,
because no matter what, even in moments where we struggle, right? Like, we're still doing the best we can.
Absolutely.
Even if that day it's, you know, top ramen for dinner, or it's takeout pizza, or if it happens to be that week is top ramen and takeout pizza, whatever it is, it sometimes I think with Pinterest and with, you know, social media and like doing things for that highlight reel picture or that image, it can be so deceiving, because the day-to-day
is unreal.
Right.
Absolutely.
Like, you're constantly being given challenges. You're constantly going through things where you maybe feel like you're not enough, or you feel like maybe you should have done it differently or said something differently, or maybe, oh man, I should have just, instead of getting mad, I should have given him a hug, or whatever it is.
Yes.
And so we can tend to beat ourselves up
And that comes with judging
Yeah.
too, and comparing. You know,
Oh, so much.
So you just have to. Our perfect line is Lena world. My last name's Lena, and in Lena world, we're perfect.
Yeah.
You know, there's no judging, there's no
love that.
comparing. I'm not a great cook, but my kids eat.
Yeah,
And
they're fed.
They're fed,
Yeah.
right? They're happy. So
You can order takeout with the best of them, though, cuz.
I sure can, and I'm not afraid of that.
Yeah.
I'm not. That's okay. When I have my two neighbors that are chefs, Molly knows how
Yeah.
to cook. I don't compare because I'm just as good as a mother as she is. I think, like you said, we have to give ourselves forgiveness.
Yeah.
If we don't judge us too hard, we're giving our kids space to appreciate us too.
Yeah. And it also shows them that they're not looking for, you don't expect perfection either. You know, you know that you have your own faults, that it gives them room to try and to make mistakes, and it allows them the same grace, you know?
And I think it's important to have a good partner too. You know, Shannon, my husband, I mean, we are perfect for each other. When it comes to Zach, I look at him and I'm like, okay, what can we work on? What can we do to make him better? But Shannon looks at him and nothing's wrong. So says to Shannon, Zach is perfect. Zach is just the way he is. Whether he can or wants to do better, he doesn't have to.
Yeah.
While the mother in me is like, yeah, he's perfect, but he can do this. He can do that. So to have parents work as a team in accepting you, then your child will be all the best that he can be, right? With that kind of support. So I think we're very lucky to have partners, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So as far as Shannon, was he very hands-on, like with Zach growing, as Zach's been growing up? What was his experience like with that as well? I mean, I guess if you could speak for him.
Well, you know, Shannon was looking forward to being a dad, period. The minute Zach was born, Shannon changed his diapers before I ever did. So I think because of his lack of father experience, meaning his dad was not as active in his life, I think he made a vow to be a better dad, which a lot of us vow to be better parents than our parents, or as good at, right?
Yeah.
So I think Shannon made a commitment, and you can tell because the minute Zach was born, he's been involved. He's been verbal and vocal and opinionated on how we were going to raise them. But I'd rather that than someone who didn't care.
And he's always been the doting dad from the moment that like Zach ever came into this world. I remember like just Shan always wanting to look at these pictures and like he's always
he's a very proud dad.
very, very birthday I love it. Of both of the boys.
Right. Oh, absolutely, both of the boys.
And recently at the birthday party where we celebrated your birthday, seeing him cheer on Jake for writing his own music and sell, like I love how much he loves so openly and so lovingly.
And it's great. You wouldn't expect it, right? Shannon on the outside seems rough on the exterior. But to have his physical strength along with his emotional strength, our kids, they're going to be fine.
Yeah. And it especially as their father, like it opens so many doors for them that shows that, you know, masculinity isn't defined just by your size or your stature. It's being able to be affectionate and loving and gentle in that strength.
Right. And Jake's learned a lot from Shannon. You know, you say you've seen Shannon always be the doting father. Well, Jake's just as committed as a brother because it's modeled for him, you know? So...
What would you say that you have learned, or has anything surprised you in being a mom?
I think what surprised me is just, you know, it does come naturally. Yeah. So I would like other moms who are afraid of being a parent or are afraid of raising their child right. If you just let it flow, you have it in you. Well, we had it in us, and I think that's what surprised me. I do have the mother instincts. especially with Zach's challenges, there's no playbook for any kid. There's definitely no playbook for autism. So I think it was really surprising that these choices, this gut that I went with, actually worked out for me.
Yeah.
So
and to that, I think that it's very important for parents to know. You had mentioned, you had said the word earlier, to advocate.
correct.
To advocate for your child. Being Zach's voice, because he doesn't have one. Being able to know your children well enough that having that connection with them, having that relationship with them, and being able to be their advocate, and knowing how they're feeling. It's being present with them.
Being present
Yeah.
with them and not afraid to get to know them and follow your gut.
Yeah.
I really feel like, the biggest thing is support yourself. Our village that I keep referring to, support yourself with good people. We have a group of people that make my kids just as welcome as their own kids.
Yeah.
And so, I just feel like, and that they give me the confidence that I'm gonna be a good mom today.
Yeah. And to your point, it is something that you deal with every day. So if maybe yesterday wasn't such a good day to be a mom, but today I'm gonna be better, or whatever it is. But even on good days, bad days, we're still giving 100% of what we have available to us.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So being able to give ourselves that grace is important.
Your kids are up in the morning eating cereal. You did a good job yesterday. But
Do you find that you've had any surprise moments in parenting where you could say, like, pat yourself on the back, like, I did that? Like,
yes, Jen, you would be impressed, because when I raised you, you cooked for me. When I would babysit you, you remember I had you cook.
Making
pancakes, everything, because my parents spoiled me. I was left-handed, so they never wanted to teach me how to cook, and I had my older sister. So when I discovered diet could possibly affect Zach, I researched and I shopped and I tried and I practiced, and I ended up cooking. I know. But what, first motivated to help my son, but I was very impressed. I wasn't afraid. I attacked it, and now I know how to cook. So that's what surprised me. You do what you have to do for your kid.
Yeah, you just stepped up to the plate.
Yeah.
Exactly. As best as you can, right?
I know, yeah.
And bat as best you can.
I think so.
So I actually wanted to give you something on behalf of So Loved. Where did I put it now?
Oh.
This is a bracelet, and it's called Genesis. And the mantra for it is that life flows abundantly through me. I like to think of this bracelet almost as a mother's bracelet, because everything begins with life as a mom. And so
for sure.
Thank you so much for all that you do, and for being such an amazing role model for your kids and for me, and for helping me during really tough times when I was growing up. So I'm blessed to have you, and I want you to have this.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. Are we hugging?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Thanks so much for being on the show
Well,
today.
Jen, you've always been inspiring, so this is really, really important.
Thank you. Awesome. And we will be back next week, and we'll have another show for you, and we'll be bringing on people who help us to inspire authenticity and living as your best self, and being true to who you are. So thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next week. Bye.